Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories. Hit the like button and let's begin. The first story: crazy aunt is trying to take away an inheritance that does not belong to her. The second story: to chase away the annoying person, just play a little crazy. The third story: the person died and you need compensation. What's wrong with these people? The first story is: entitled aunt tries to force me to give up my inheritance and threatens to tie it up in court for years. This all began literally on my birthday and carried on for about 2 months after. At this time, the order of protection had long ran out and had not been renewed, as we had gone total no contact with my entitled aunt, and had been since she had tried to submit forged documents to the courts, trying to get her hands on my inheritance. It still puzzles me how she did not wind up in prison over that. But I digress. It was my 18th birthday and the party was in full swing, with everyone having a great time. Kids having fun in the backyard, adults relaxing with their favorite drinks, everyone enjoying themselves. I had just gone into the backyard to see how the kids were getting on and was having fun playing chase, and you can't catch me with the kids, when there was a sudden loud commotion from inside the house. I rushed into the house to see what was going on. There stood my aunt with some guy, sleazy lawyer in a cheap suit, demanding to see me, and shouting I was going to sign her papers, and no one was going to stop her this time. My mother, now in declining health, was up in my aunt's face yelling at her to get out and never come back, and that she was not and never would be welcome here. My aunt just stood there looking smug, her entitlement on full display for everyone to see. She shouted at my mom to shut up and get out of her way. When my mom didn't, she had the gall to raise her hand and full-on slap my mother so hard she went down. I lost it and went into full attack mode and punched her full in the face as hard as I could, breaking her nose for the second time in her life, and screamed, "Get out before the cops get here." My aunt got up the floor and, seeing the murderous look on my face, decided to leave. She rushed out so fast with the sleazy lawyer behind her, so fast I swear she left a vacuum in her wig. I wasn't done, however. I followed them outside and yelled that if she ever had the balls to ever come back, I would kill her and bury her corpse in the backyard garden. She actually had the gall to call the cops and try to have me arrested for defending my mother. So once again, we had to make a trip to the courthouse and apply for a new restraining order. The judge took one look at the form and signed it without question, having had to deal with her several times over the years in several other frivolous lawsuits. She lost every one of them. We were later told when receiving the order my aunt went bad sh crazy and made several threats, which prompted another visit by the cops to her house. A few days later, we received a notice that she was filing suit for assault, theft of personal monies, deception, and a whole host of other made-up and imagined crimes, and was demanding the inheritance in its entirety as compensation for her pain and suffering. The case went to court 2 months later. During the court proceedings, she told completely embellished tales of how we were stalking her and threatening her life in general, making her life a living hell. During the proceedings, she was asked by the judge if she had proof of said stalking. She didn't. The judge also asked us if we could provide proof of her having come to the house and attacking my mother. We did, and had several witnesses, including a retired officer who was a longtime family friend, and we showed video proof of her driving up our driveway and getting out of the car and literally storming to the front door. Yes, my mother had long installed security cameras around the property because the thing was mysteriously disappearing when left outside. Not cheap at that time and considered a luxury item. Big, bulky things that you could not miss if you saw them. She also pulled out the "he threatened to kill me" card, pointing at me, trying to play the victim, but failed miserably. The judge asked me if that was true. I told him yes, but that it was said in anger because she had hurt my mother, and I was seeing red at the time. I wound up with $10 fine and 5 hours community service. No biggie. I knocked all that out in one afternoon and made a few new friends at the same time. The judge threw her case out and told her that if he ever saw her in his courtroom again with something so frivolous, he would see to it that she would be the next one fined and receiving no less than 100 hours of community service to teach her a little humility. He also ruled that no matter what she thinks, the terms of the inheritance were spelled out clearly, and that she had lost all and any claim to it the first time she tried to sue a 9-year-old child over it, and that the court would show her no mercy whatsoever the next time. A few minutes after court was adjourned, we were in the court foyer, getting ready to leave, when she and the sleazy lawyer approached and said this was far from over, that if they could not get the inheritance due to my aunt, he would keep it tied up in procedures and legal matters until none of it was left to inherit. She was reminded of the new restraining order, and my mother called over one of the police officers that were there with another client. My aunt and her sleazy lawyer left in a rush. True to his word, a few days later we got notice of a new lawsuit from them, and that they had applied for a change of venue, claiming they feared they would not get a fair hearing locally because of the good old boy attitude that permeated the local populace. Their request for change of venue was denied on the basis of insufficient proof, so they started playing delaying tactics, claiming they were still investigating certain matters, they were not yet fully prepared, etc., thinking that would cost us money and force us to just sign the inheritance over to end the troubles. It didn't work because I had not yet received the inheritance. Our attorney waited until after everything was settled before he handed it over to me. Brilliant maneuver on his part. My mother unfortunately passed away during this time in her sleep. They tried one more time to get me to sign over the inheritance a few days after my mother's wake and funeral. All I did was walk over to the now my phone and start dialing and said, "Hello, police? I have 2 trespassers on my property that have a restraining order against them and are refusing to leave." They vanished faster than I thought possible. In the end, they were forced to drop the suit, as it was obvious they were not going to win, and yes, I was stubborn enough to leave it where it was for as long as it took for them to stop. Since my aunt's been obsessed with getting her hands on the inheritance, even going so far as to claiming I was a pedophile, and trying to get me kicked out of my own home by the town on that basis, no one ever believed her. The last time she wound up being ordered into court and threatened with serious consequences if she did not cease her harassment and threats. Since then, the rest of the family essentially cast her out, ostracizing her. Even those considered entitled will have nothing to do with her anymore. Still, she persists in trying to gossip and spread rumors about me and how I stole her inheritance to anyone that will listen. No one ever believes her, yet she persists in trying her entitlement and obsession have grown so powerful to her. She still thinks she's going to get her money someday, and I will pay for making her suffer so much. She's become so obsessed, she even managed to bully the one family member I did share my inheritance with into buying her a small house, and once more, but totally got cut off by that family member after she got the house. To this day, she still has not given up her attempts to get my inheritance, even tried claiming a new house I had purchased with her money. She can try as much as she wants, but she will never succeed. In the end, she will eventually die bitter and lonely, and wind up buried in a pauper grave, only remembered for her unbound entitlement and obsession. The second story is how to scare an entitled person. If you've read my other stories, you know that I'm an old woman who ran out of SHs a long time ago. I'm sarcastic, and I'm not a stranger to foul language. 14-year Navy vet, so I cuss like a sailor. Haha. I haven't posted for a while, and I finally have another story. After a couple of weeks of not leaving my house and needing some groceries, so I threw on an old baseball cap, hadn't fixed my hair for a while, and ventured to my closest Costco. I donned my gloves and mask and sallied forth. Being early, the line to enter was short, and I was able to get in, grab the stuff I needed, and get in line to check out. However, the line to check out was not short. The store had established 2 lines approaching the checkout tills. An employee would direct you to the next till open when you reach the front of the store. The end of the lines, however, stretched back to the back of the store. I got in line and everyone was being very nice and keeping the prescribed distance apart and were behaving in a civil manner. We chatted with each other and talked about the quarantine. But of course, there's always that one person who just has to try to display the dominance by peeing all over everyone else. This one person in this case was a Karen. There were only about 3 people in front of me before reaching the front, where an employee would direct us to a cashier. Karen came along, looked back towards the beginning of the line, sighed dramatically, and pushed her giant Costco cart in front of the woman before me, making her next in line. The lady in front of me pointed out to her that the line started in the back of the store. Karen ignored her completely. A couple of others in line also called out to her that the line was back there. Karen ignored them. Finally, the employee-directed traffic came over and told her that she would have to move to the back of the line. Karen finally spoke. "I spend a lot of money here. Like, we all spent a lot of money at Costco. And I'm in a hurry. What's one more in front of them anyway? They've already waited this long. They can wait a few minutes more." I watched this go down, and soon the employee was arguing with her, and I decided that it was time to let my crazy flag fly. I'm no shrinking violet, and I don't embarrass easily, so I thought, why not? I walked up next to the lady and just stared at her. I didn't say anything until she looked at me and said, "Step back, you're too close." I looked at her and loudly said, "Do you like my shoes?" Karen, bless her heart, looked a little shocked. Before she could say anything, I struck again. "I like my shoes. Do you like my shoes?" I then did what my sons tell me is my creepy laugh. Wahaha! Karen's eyes got a little wide, and I heard some snickers from some of the others in line. I then said, "Can I go home with you and look at your shoes?" At this, the employee once again said, "Ma'am, please go to the back of the line." Crazy won the day, and Karen left the line without saying a word to me and headed towards the back of the line. By now, some of the others were laughing, and some looked genuinely worried about the crazy lady in line with them. I just went back to my cart and said, "Well, sometimes you just have to fight idiots with crazy." Everyone seemed to relax, and a couple of us chatted for the few minutes it took for us to reach the front of the line. I will admit most of the people who were in line with me, who heard the altercation, were looking at me funny. But hey, it's not like they could recognize me because of the ball cap and mask. Geez, I love freaking people out. Being old has its perks. And the last story is, passenger wants compensation because someone died during flight. I, 33 female, work for one of the largest airlines in the world. I'm a reservations agent. My department handles reservations for our frequent flyers members who have status. This event occurred about 5 years ago. One evening, I received a call from a passenger demanding compensation because the flight arrived later than scheduled. The cause of a delay like this is what determines if compensation is offered, what form of compensation will be issued, and how much. While searching through the reservation to determine the answers of these questions, I discovered that the reason the flight was delayed is because the captain/pilot of the flight, male, early 40s, had a heart attack mid-flight and died. This pilot had a wife, and I believe 3 children, waiting for him at home. So it was so heartbreaking that he died so young, even more so because he had kids that he would never get to see grow up. Because of the tragedy, the flight was diverted to another city to allow officials to remove his body from the plane. So this passenger called demanding compensation for the inconvenience of his flight finally making it to his destination late. He kept yelling that he had been late to or completely missed his business meeting. Even after I explained the reason for the delay, he still felt he should get some kind of refund or voucher, solely because of the inconvenience. He was saying that we could have just continued to his destination and then take the pilot's body off the plane. He continued to say a lot of ignorant and cold-hearted things, always insisting that we inconvenienced him and he is entitled to compensation. I eventually lost my patience with this jackass and told him, "Sir, I'm sorry that you were inconvenienced, but this man was barely 40 years old with a wife and children. They feel having to unexpectedly plan and pay for his memorial service to be quite inconvenienced as well. But they understand that this was something completely outside of our control. There was nothing we could have done to prevent this." He continued to try to argue and wanted to speak to corporate. They were going to give him a refund or a voucher. He also threatened that he would post on social media about the horrible customer service and the flight delay. I basically told him good luck with that and ended the call. Someone dies and you're inconvenienced? Get your head out of your way. I hope you love these stories. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new videos come out.